Good to go? Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging that today we are on the traditional territory of the Stolo Nation. My name is Henry Braun. I'm the mayor of the city of Abbotsford, and earlier today I was able to do an aerial tour of Sumas Prairie, and you've seen the photos that we've shared online. You can see the impact to our community is significant. At this time, over 1,200 homes are impacted, which is up a little more from this morning, and Highway 1, streets, farmlands, and businesses are submerged in water. And I did a surface tour with Chief Cyr this afternoon and saw firsthand up close the devastation on Sumas Prairie and to the farming community. And it's heartbreaking for me to see the devastation that I saw on the ground and in the air. Rescues are still underway with Abbotsford Fire Rescue Services and Abbotsford Police Department. Our reception centers in Abbotsford at Tradex and Chilliwack are busy connecting people with food, lodging, clothing, toiletries, and so on. Thank you to all of the people and the organizations who are offering their support. As these rescues continue, we continually are assessing the emergency and needs of the community. I've been actively working with the BC government and advocating for support. We are assessing and planning for the days and weeks ahead. I have Abbotsford Fire Chief Darren Lee with me and the Abbotsford Police Department Chief Mike Cyr to my left. And they will provide you with an update, and we'll have a Q&A session after that.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. I just got a couple points I wanted to go through. So around about noon today, the Nooksack River got back in its channel, and it typically escapes near a town called Everson and flows sort of north and northeast towards the city of Abbotsford. And once the river goes back in the channel, I think it's important for people to understand the water that's already escaped the channel. It's on its way to Abbotsford. It's downhill from there, so that there's a time lag there as that volume of water comes through. But that is starting to show some relief in the Huntington area, and also starting to see a bit of relief in the west side of the Sumas Prairie in terms of water levels starting to drain, which is a positive sign for us, but we're certainly not out of trouble here yet. The east side of Sumas River and the dike is a bit of a different story. That's where the water's heading, and the water's been working its way north and to the east on its way as it's going to navigate its way eventually into the Fraser River. So that's given us some challenges. The Barrowtown lift station, which dewaters that end of Abbotsford and sends water into the Fraser, had a technical issue today, and I know that's been out on social media. So they, without getting too into the details, it was an electrical problem, so an electrical circuit went down, and the team in the EOC was fed that information from engineering operators in the field. They were quickly able to organize an electrician, some other city staff, and also meet BC Hydro, who came in from the Chilliwack side. And what we actually did is we used a helicopter to fly the electrician to the site. So there's 4 big pumps there. Right now, 3 are back up and running. The 4th one's coming back online. They just have to test the circuit. So it moves a massive amount of water, up to 250,000 gallons a minute. So it's an amazing piece of apparatus, and it's doing a great job. But it's just kind of a testament to the professionalism and the work ethic, and honestly the creativity that our team has up in the EOC and also in the field. So that was a bit of a good news story to share with everybody. TradeX has been really busy as our reception center and group lodging right now. I don't have exact numbers. I understand it's somewhere north of 500 beds right now are set up there. So our ESS volunteers are working really hard. And as the mayor said, with evacuations ongoing, I had a minute today to pop out and visit a couple fire crews, and just listening to their stories from yesterday. One crew figures they were able to help rescue approximately 15 people from cars that were caught up in that traffic snarl and flooding on the highway. So really proud of the work that everybody in the city of Abbotsford's been doing. Really proud of the fire department. They've been awesome. I know this morning we were asked, how are they doing? And they're really proud to work here. They're really proud of the work they've done, and they're really happy. And they still have a ton of energy and a ton of fight in them. So I feel like we're in a really good place here. And as this floodwaters recede, we'll start to work up some longer term plans around recovery and stuff like that. And we'll be working with the MBC on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Lee. And I just want to reiterate, thank you to all our first responders, search and rescue, city staff. I mean, they've been going nonstop for the last, almost 48 hours. And it is truly impressive being out there with Mayor Braun and seeing just the work that everyone's doing. So I want to thank you. The other thing is for the public, I am really asking for your assistance and cooperation. We are still getting reports from some of our areas that are secured that people are trying to find routes to get east, getting to Chilliwack and other ways. I can tell you that you cannot make it east through Abbotsford to Chilliwack. So please do not try. You're actually taking up some of our resources, having to have us man different locations that we can better utilize those people in other locations. So please do not come to the city unless you really, it's a requirement that you need to be here. And likewise, we're also getting some concerns of people, that are kayaking and doing other things. It's impeding, some of the farms' ability to manage their livestock. As Mayor Braun knows, many of the farms are very actively trying to support getting their livestock out. And when people are going and taking pictures, we have people on the highway as an example today that were all walking along there. That is definitely causing us concerns for both farmers and for our staff that are trying to get in there. The other thing too is I know everyone wants some pictures. We are doing our best to give you as much information as we can, share those pictures. But we're also impacting communities. People are going up to some of the higher mountains in Abbotsford. I won't name them because we don't need more people to go up in that locations. But please, just right now, we just need you to give us some time so we can manage some of those things. And then just other than that, just please stay tuned for social media. We are going to share updates real time with you. And we just appreciate everyone's cooperation and support. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Braun.
Thank you. At this point, we're prepared to answer any questions that any that can be directed to any one of us. So feel free.
What have you guys learned so far? I mean, this was something that was not even not even on the radar. We usually see this in the spring. Obviously, as bad as it is, there's lessons learned. Like you said, there's some good things that you guys have come out of this. If you could sum it up, a time frame that we might get back to normal?
Well, a time frame I don't have, unfortunately. We don't have enough information yet to know the duration of what we're going through. But I can tell you this, that the EOC team upstairs, I wish you could all come up there and see what they're doing. And led by the Chief Lee and Chief Sear, our team has come together, I think, in a way that is really emblematic of the spirit of this community. And we are all pulling together. You wouldn't believe how many people are asking, how can we help? How can we help? We can't actually engage them all yet. That'll come at some point. But right now we are singularly focused on rescue of people and looking after their property. And once we do that, then we will start to look at some of the other things.
You talk about rescue. I've been hearing on the news that up in Pemberton, Lillooet, they've now found a fatality of a woman. No, is there any? Are you sure that everybody's accounted for in this area?
Well, I'll turn that over to Chief Lee. I'm not aware of anybody, but.
Yeah, just to answer that. So there's two sort of major operations going on with police, fire, and search and rescue teams. So, sorry, I'll pop this off. Pardon me. So there's the evacuation component that we're able to successfully repeat again today and east of the Sumas River. So that's going around and doing the evacuation orders. And then for the homes that we felt that we were either rushed on or just didn't have time to get there because maybe the water was crossing the road and we had to make the tactical decision to get to more homes rather than maybe that one isolated one. We've been going back. One of the challenges that we've had in in the Sumas Prairie is we actually can't access all of those from sort of coming from the west. So working with our firefighters that were able to make it over to the east side, and working with Chilliwack Fire, Chilliwack Search and Rescue, is they've actually been working their way across. So they're systematically going through and rechecking all those addresses. And probably until the floodwaters rescind, we won't be able to see the full picture. But right now we're doing everything we can to get back and recheck those ones that we had a inkling of doubt about.
How's it been for like fire to fire? I mean, fire obviously has other duties to do.
Yeah.
But stuff like this, obviously taking up all your resources.
Yeah, so for especially the first two and a half days, we called in a lot of extra staff to help just augment it, because we still have a regular city to service. We had a fairly significant structure fire the first night, but that went off sort of without a hitch, and we kept going on the rescue side of it and the evacuation side. And that's just a testament to that planning and bringing in the extra folks, understanding how significant of a weather and flood event this was going to turn into. So we were able to maintain that service level. Hopefully I answered that properly for you.
I mean, just by your assumption at this point right now, I mean, you can have as many guys as you want, but the infrastructure that you need, like, you know, pumps and all that, I mean, is that something that you're looking at now? Maybe the city might have to go, well, wait a minute, this could happen again. You know, really.
Yeah, if we needed required extra pumps, we can reach out to EMBC and they can help us bring those in on an emergency basis. Certainly for us, I think that honestly the most difficult challenges as the floodwaters came up, we lose access and maybe even more importantly, egress. Could we get into that rural property? Yes, but could we get out and still help other people? So it's really a game of time and trying to do the most good for the most people. And that's why we're really thrilled when people comply with those evacuation orders, as tough as it is to walk away from your home or your farm.
Overall, the people that you've seen, are they pretty good keeping out of your?
Yeah, I think overall the majority people are. I think Highway 1 last night when it closed was a real challenge, because that just caught so many people off guard, right? And that's when especially Abbey PD and a lot of Abbey Fire, we dealt with up to around about 5,000 cars that were sort of stuck on the freeway at one time, all trying to get eastbound.
Can you speak about the farming community and what kind of resources are deployed there? So some farmers, livestock, is there concerns?
Yeah. Turn that over to the expert.
Thank you. I think what's important to remember is that Sumas Prairie is one of the two largest parts of our farming community. There are a lot of farmers with livestock and in the feather industry out there, and they are doing everything that they can to protect their investments. Not everybody who's received an evacuation order has left. There are some farmers who want to stay on their farms, and I totally understand that. Having animals myself, I totally get that. I would want to do that too. The farming community really has come together in a way to help each other. The chief and I spent a couple of hours on the road this afternoon, and there are people with power boats hauling cows out of their barns to Highway 1 to dry ground, and there's men and women in the water this deep for hours. There was a young man there in particular that I looked at. He was just shaking and trembling when he came out of that water. The hypothermia was starting to set in. But they want to protect their animals, and many of them would give their own lives, I think, for some of those animals. So I was impressed with the people that came, neighboring farmers who are on high ground, because we have lots of farms on high ground too, came with their stock trailers, and they were loading them, dragging them through the water, calves underwater. They threw a few calves in the boat to get them to safety, and then off to other farms where they can, and some of these cows have been standing in water 2 feet deep for a couple of days. So I was amazed at what they were, well, anyways, boats with those big fans in the back. I just can't remember. You see them in the Everglades, but I didn't even know we had any in Abbotsford. So I learned a few things too, but there is a lot of work that is happening around the clock protecting livestock and moving. There was a lot of farmers moving their round bales, those big white mushroom bales that you've probably seen in fields, to higher ground, because you make your hay in the summertime, and that is all winter feed, much of which this water came so quickly that it's been underwater, and so we're going to need some feed for our cattle, and there's thousands and thousands of cows on that prairie. But I had a long conversation with Minister Popham, keeping her abreast of what's happening here. I know from what she said, that the Premier has been talking to the Prime Minister, so there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and you'll hear more about that in the days coming. But right now, we are still focused singularly on protecting our residents and their properties. And whatever we can do, we are doing. We are bringing all of the resources of the city to bear here, and we will be asking for other resources to come and join us as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
For anybody that wants, who's listening, people want to help in whatever way they can, tell us how, anybody that's listening to any one of us, how can people help?
Well, I'm getting a lot of calls from people who want to donate clothing or food. We're turning them over to, or I turn them over to an individual in our ops center, but I'll let maybe Chief Lee inform the public how they could do that, because I try to stay out of the operations, but I am very much involved in what's going on here.
So as you can understand, we started this event on Sunday afternoon, so we've been really in the response phase up until now. We're just starting to that advanced planning for the recovery. So up until now, our emergency social services folks have been just taking a list of folks that different organizations and people want to reach out and donate or support, or even offer up lodging locations in different churches and community centers. So right now they're just building a list, and then as we start to look at more of the long-term recovery effort, we'll be able to take better advantage of that. But as the mayor said, for probably the last 48 hours, it's been really about life safety of the people we serve and our responders. So we're starting to grapple with that, but we really haven't been able to take a lot of that offered support on in earnest yet.
And while the water levels have decreased somewhat at the U.S. border crossing, the lay of the land is such that the Nooksack River was pumping in so much water, even though we have the 4 largest drainage pumps in all of Western Canada. They can only handle or pump 250,000 gallons a minute. That is a lot of water. But there is way more that has come into the prairie. And now, as there's overreaching of some of our dikes, that water is now flowing northeast and will continue to do that, while the western prairie, you may see we've seen water decrease maybe a foot. But on the eastern part of the valley, that water will probably rise, because that is where Sumas Lake once was in the early 1900s. And it's those pumps that actually dried that, they pumped it all out.
Is it hampered any of the sewage? Any sewage plants that are?
No, the sewage plants are in Matsqui Prairie. That's not an issue for us. That's an issue if the Fraser floods, and that's a concern to this community too. But we have 2 prairies. This may turn out to have been a greater threat than we thought.
And is there any update on the long-term side? People were standing there overnight. Any updates on what that situation is like now in Whatcom area?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
By the Whatcom exit.
Yes?
Is there any update on people being rescued there? How many were left? Do you know?
I'm not sure on Whatcom. Whatcom is we were just there at the exchange. It's still underwater, and it will be underwater, I think, for a while yet. This water, it can't go anywhere. It has to naturally drain. We're not talking about day after tomorrow, this is all over. For Abbotsford, we're just at the beginning of, I think, a big fight yet.
So when you talked about in the States there, did it reach like a levee or something on the Nooksack side, or has that been repaired? Because you said it's following the path now.
Well, the Nooksack River was at flood stage, so it went over the dikes in the U.S.
Did it take the dike sometimes when they go over?
That I don't know. I haven't been looking at what happened over there, but this isn't the first time that this has happened. This happened last year. It happened in the 1990s. This is much more severe than what I saw in 1990. I've lived here for 68 years. I have not seen this kind of devastation in my 68 years that I've lived here. And it breaks my heart to see what's happening to those farmers who put their life savings into their properties, into their farms. And despite some of the negativity we hear about farmers, they do care. Anyways, my heart breaks for some of them. Chief, Whatcom Road. I think that was the initial
Yeah,
question.
and just one thing to add from the last question, so just so I don't forget, Constable Walker passed this to me, so I apologize. So if people do want to offer support, they can call 604-864-5688. Again, that's 604-864-5688. And if they want to leave information about wanting to reach out with lodging or donations and things like that, EOC staff can take their information down, and they're building a database of people that they can reach back out to. And then specifically about Whatcom, I saw some videos last night. Obviously, you get in the EOC, you get rather busy, and you're kind of almost detached from what's going on in the community. And saw some of those videos where search and rescue boats were doing rescues, private boats were doing rescues. Some people were using tractors and large vehicles to do rescues, so it was a pretty active spot. That's where we had one of our personnel from search and rescue had an injury during a rescue. So it was, I think that to the best of my knowledge, it was a safe place for people to get off the highway who were passing through. It looked like high ground, but when the water really started to come up, they ended up trapped, and it kind of created an island that a bunch of folks were stuck on. And some people seemed like they were good to just wait it out, and others wanted out a little bit sooner than later. But it took quite some time. We were working on that still this morning, and I believe now it's all mitigated, but I'd have to double check that.
How concerned are you guys for some of the rain that's in the forecast for later this week?
Well, I haven't looked at the forecast today. Last night, I thought it was supposed to be relatively sunny for the next 3 or 4 days, which is great. But the drainage of Sumas Prairie the ground is saturated, and it's going to take a while for that water to dissipate into the soil and into the ditches. The ditches are all full for the most part. The median between east and westbound on the freeway is there. It's full and over full. There's 3 or 4, I think 3 washouts that I saw on Southern Rail, which is where the Nooksack is coming over. And that water was still this afternoon moving at a pretty good clip into Sumas Prairie heading northeast. And the freeway is basically flooded from Whatcom. Not completely, but I would say 3/4 of it is flooded between Whatcom and Vetter Canal.
Do you foresee any food supply issues with us being cut off from east for food manufacturers, grocery stores, all that?
I'm not aware. I don't know if the chief is aware, but the fact that the highway arteries east to west in and out of Metro Vancouver from our ports into the interior are blocked, and the railways are blocked as well, I think. I haven't kept totally informed, but I do watch what's going on in the rest of the province. That is going to become an issue at some point. I just don't know when.
I guess there's no guess when Highway 1 could be reopened.
No. Yeah, I would be speculating, but given the amount of water that is in that prairie right now, this isn't going to go away overnight. We're going to be dealing with this for a while. I just don't know how much a while is. But we will get a better handle on that as we look at the modeling and what we see real time on the ground in the next number of days, and we'll continue to update you and the community as well in the days to come ahead. Anyone else? Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll, as I said, continue to provide updates to you as they come in. So thank you very much. Paul, anything to add? We're good? Yeah, thanks for that number. I'd forgotten. I didn't.